welcome to the Popcorn Counter here at the Two Reel Cinema Club for our favourite podcast of the year. It's the Film of the Year show.
Should I clap?
Join in the fray. Everyone's blooming clapping. It was good to see we've dressed up as usual. Do you like my suit? Gold lame this year, paired with these leopard print trousers, which I found in a charity shop. Pretty smart. Surprised to find out apparently a lame isn't an animal. Who knew? And visitors to the Popcorn Counter will have seen the searchlights arcing across the sky. That's me with a flashlight. It's a pretty powerful flashlight. Look at this, not bad.
So festive this year.
It's nice to get dressed up.
Yeah, it is. Feels good.
So, regular listeners will know the format. We have 7 awards, 7 categories this year. We can each nominate as many films as we like. We have kept our nominations secret from each other, so we only find out which films the other has chosen right now, live as we record. Sometimes we agree, but when we don't, we have to argue it out live in front of the microphones. So it's just the same as the decision process for the Oscars, but all condensed into half an hour instead of 5 months with loads of adverts in the trades. Much better for everybody. And you've got the first envelope.
I do. I'm just... I'm speechless. Which is what
that never happens.
I know. It's what some of those actors and actresses should be at the awards when they should just come up and don't give a speech. Just say thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rizika. Yes, I've got the envelope for, this one's a catchy one, Best Film of the Year, Not Made This Year. So it's not a film from 2024. It's one of our old films. And I guess I should open this. Is that what I do? I open the envelope.
Yeah. So we have seen some terrific old films this year.
Say.
I mean, I suppose the main thrust of the podcast is that we watch a new film and we compare it to an old film, and usually the old film is better. So we are kind of starting with the best films of the year that we've watched.
Oh boy!
But so what have you nominated for the best film that we saw this year, not made this year?
Yeah, not made this year. My nominations, I have two.
Oh,
I kind of have 3, but I'm only going to talk about 2. My best film of the year, not made this year, is probably Return of Martin Guerre.
Oh, that's not on my list. Okay.
But I also have The Others on the list because I loved that film as well. So I do have 2 films, but maybe neither one is on your list.
Well, interestingly, neither of those is on my list.
Oh my gosh!
So I mean, we didn't watch the greatest film of all time this year. We watched that last year, Jean Dielman. But we did see what I personally still maintain, and I went on about this at some length during the podcast. Yeah, we saw what I think is the greatest film of the 21st century.
Oh my!
And I know that you don't agree with me, but my opinion is unchanged. So I think the greatest film of the 21st century is Mad Max: Fury Road. I think it is a perfect example of what cinematic storytelling is. It is a story told with moving images, and with more or less no very important dialogue. You know, you could watch that film in Korean and still understand everything that was going on. So that's top of my list, but is it the best old film we saw this year? I've got a few others on my list. We did see My Neighbor Totoro, which I think is the finest film about what it's like to be a preschooler. We watched Dirty Harry, which I had never seen, which is an utter riot.
That is a good one.
And we did watch The Fall, is the other film that I've put on my list.
I loved that film,
Which is, an interesting story, but so beautifully told and so visually startling. Well, this doesn't often happen. We have not nominated any of the same films. Who's going to throw the first punch?
Because we've seen so many good older films.
It's hard to choose.
I thought even my third choice might be on your list, which was The Wizard of Oz. I came to that with new eyes and loved that film this time. You said that Mad Max was 21st century. Are you talking about, we saw Fury Road. Is that?
Well, Furiosa
we saw.
is this year, but I think Fury Road was. I might have to look it up now.
Okay.
Luckily, I have the IMDb on hand here at the awards ceremony, just like they do at the Oscars.
It's a minor technicality.
It's 2015.
Okay,
Fury Road.
Sorry,
Yeah,
it's 21st century, of course. Well, on your list, I think what was your last one that you mentioned there?
The Fall.
The Fall. I could come over on The Fall because I do think that's just a brilliant film and so visually stunning and just a sort of a film about filmmakers or fall guys to a certain extent. So I really did like that film. I think that's probably the one on your list that I would go to first. Huh.
Well, are we prepared to reach a compromise? There's going to be more compromising later on in the evening.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay, well, I didn't expect this to happen, but okay. So our best film, seen but not made this year, is The Fall. I'm not even convinced that it is the best film that we've seen but not made this year, but I'm going to put it on the list. It's The Fall. That's the winner. Well, we will let Tarsem Singh know by email.
I think the advantage of choosing that film is no one can possibly see it, right? So we cannot be contested on this one because good luck finding it. I forget what you did to get me a copy of it, and I'm not going to tell anyone what happened. But
well, I think there was an illegal copy widely available on YouTube, but that has now been taken down because I think there's been a theatrical re-release, hasn't there? So I think our one outlet is gone.
Okay. Oof.
So, second envelope then.
You have that one.
I do have this one. But here it is. Okay, so this is the award for Actor of the Year. So I've got. I'm opening the envelope now, but it's. I had to go over onto the second side. I've got 4 in my.
Oh my lord!
My nominations.
Oh, then surely we have one in common.
Okay, so I've got 4, but I'm going to read them in reverse order. I'm going to finish with my favourite.
Okay.
At the bottom of the list, undeservedly, I've put Jeffrey Wright for American Fiction. He's one of those actors who rarely plays the lead in any project. Yeah. And he's been, a staunch, outstanding character actor, playing secondary characters for a long career. And to see him play the lead and do it, be so witty and so engaging and just so intelligent on screen. Really enjoy watching him in American Fiction. Just above him, I've put Sebastian Stan from A Different Man. Not convinced that he's a great actor, but he's very interesting in this, and it's a brave, interesting choice. Yeah. The Academy always loves people who ugly up, and he does ugly up in this film. Yeah. But I think he actually turns in a pretty interesting, nuanced performance. Not as interesting as number 2. This is Golden Globe winner Demi Moore, who appears in The Substance and kind of deconstructs her own career, deconstructs her own body, puts in a pretty sterling, brave performance. Yeah. But there is one name that I've put above Demi Moore. Do you want to guess who I've put above her on my list?
Yeah, she's on my list too. It's kind of last year's film, though. That's it has to be. Well, no, you tell me.
Well, I've put Mikey Madison from Anora at the top of my list because I think she's the one that ought to get the gong. What she's brought a very authentic, committed performance to the screen. Yeah. I think I would give her the award just for getting through all those vapes on the screen. My goodness. That is method acting. Yes. Who have you put on your list?
I hope she didn't have real nicotine in that thing because she's very close to death if that was the case. I hope they have like a stage vape device. I have 2 of those actors on my list too. And not really in any order, but Jeffrey Wright was fantastic. I loved that role for him. I thought he delivered beautifully. And Sebastian Stan also. Those 2 are on my list. I do not have Demi Moore on my list. I do not have Mikey Madison on my list. I feel guilty about the other one on my list because Poor Things came out at the end of last year, really. We saw it probably early in the year, but I thought Emma Stone was great, and she was already rewarded for that performance.
Oh, so you're right.
I'm willing to abandon her on that one, but I would stand strong with Sebastian Stan and or Jeffrey Wright.
Oh, see, now the way you talk about Jeffrey Wright, he slightly edged it over Sebastian Stan in my... I think we should give it to Jeffrey Wright,
Yeah. I thought he was great. Again, he played, it was one of these roles where he plays a couple of different roles. I mean, his his persona with his family is different from his persona individually. He has to sort of adapt a hipster or like an edgy character in order to get the book deal. He also has to sort of transform his ways with his brother's very different. He has a different relationship with the brother. There are just so many different aspects of that character that I thought he channeled really, really well. So I would go with Jeffrey Wright if you would too.
I think let's give the gong to Jeffrey Wright. We have a winner.
Nice
to see him pick something up, actually.
Yeah, he deserves it. He deserves it. The Academy also likes, the Academy here at Two Wheel Cinema Club also likes people who work hard and are not recognized, and then we'd love to finally shower them with praise and recognition.
He's earned it. He's earned it. You've got the next envelope. Exciting. What does it say?
God, it says, this envelope is so heavy. There are so many names. On the paper in this envelope that this is just easy. Oh boy, I'm going to go with.
You haven't told us what's on the envelope yet. Wait a second.
It's the clunker of the year. Thank you for reminding me. It was so these are such clunkers that they just they're easy to forget their category. Oof. For me, there's one that really stands out, and then there are three others that I will or will not mention.
Only four. You've been very...
Yeah, I know. I've been very generous.
Very reserved.
Number one is Beetlejuice. I thought that was a clunker. Probably just should not have been remade. Do you want to hear my other ones too? They might.
I do, because I do enjoy laughing at a clunker.
Okay. This one's not going to offend you. Twisters, I thought, was a clunker. I just did not really enjoy that. I think you enjoyed Alien Romulus a lot more than I did, but I thought that was a clunker. And I think the biggest clunker in another way, because it's gotten so much praise, I think, is The Substance. I really detested that film as well. So for me, Beetlejuice is the clear winner, but I have some backups just in case you might have loved Beetlejuice.
Well, I, like you, have got a long list of clunkers this year. I don't know whether it's been a bad year. Maybe it has been a bad year. Or maybe we've just chosen bad films.
Oh, no.
So we have had so many legacy sequels, haven't we?
Yeah.
So yes, Beetlejuice, Twisters, Alien Romulus, you've already mentioned, but also like sequels and reboots like The Fall Guy, I thought was a good-natured clunker.
Yeah.
Furiosa, which has some terrific sequences, and there's a great 15-minute scene in the middle of the movie, but it's the rest of the movie is kind of a disappointment.
Yeah.
And the other clunker was Joker, which I think we thought was quite interesting, but it's another sequel or reboot which didn't do the business. I agree. I thought Romulus was. I enjoyed it more than you did. I thought it was actually good. I'm going to defend Romulus. I thought actually it was good. That film knew what it was. But overall, the take-home message is that I think both of us would love to see more original pictures.
Yes.
Is that too much to ask for? But out of all of those, the legacy sequel and the clunker, which came to mind first and which appeared on top of my list, was also Beetlejuice.
Full agreement.
For a film that was 30 years in the making, it was confused and rushed and muddled and botched.
Yeah.
How much longer did they need to work on it before they could develop a coherent story? It suffers from way too many ideas, and yet none of them properly developed. Subplots that get forgotten about halfway through the movie. Changes of direction. It could have been a simple, straightforward, fun bit of nostalgia, and instead it just seemed like a weird roll of the die. Goodness knows what was happening there.
Money.
I think Beetlejuice gets the gong.
Yeah, money was happening there. They just wanted to make some more money, and I actually think we're going to see more sequels and prequels and such. I think that's the way the industry's going. Safe, conservative, things that already have product placement or product recognition, I guess, something like that, brand recognition.
When we put our tuxes back on next year, we'll look back and see whether you were right or wrong. I suspect you're going to be right, though.
God, I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong.
Right, my turn for the envelope.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about something a little bit more positive. My envelope says, Scene of the Year. And I have 5
goodness.
nominations on the envelope here. I have little standout moments from a whole bunch of movies, which really stayed with me for the whole year. So I was kind of, I knew we were going to talk about this, so I was kind of mulling over in my mind. One of the hallmarks of a good scene is that it stays in your mind.
Yeah.
And I know this is one of those other things that we often talk about on the pod, which is that a scene is like a film director's unit of work. That's the big difference between them and us.
Yeah.
That screenwriters tend to think about a story as a whole from start to finish, whereas us directors often tend to think about scenes. They want good scenes, interesting scenes, a scene they can get their teeth into. Yeah. And looking at the bigger, wider picture isn't nearly as important. So often it's directors' pictures that end up producing memorable scenes. So my list of scenes here we go. I've got Sandra Hüller, and I will accept your advice on how to pronounce her name properly, trying on the coat in Zone of Interest. There's that kind of silent scene where we just watch her putting on a coat and she looks at herself in the mirror. And that single scene, I think it may just be a static camera in the corner of the room, but it explains, pretty much everything about the film.
Yeah.
And again, she's just acting with her body and she's not playing a sympathetic character. It's a well-made little scene there, which sticks in my mind. I've put down the news bulletin from Saturday night, where Corey Michael Smith is playing Chevy Chase. Again, that scene just stays in my mind. It's a clever impersonation of Chevy Chase, which is both like him and not like him. And that scene, more than anything else in that film, I think conveys exactly what Saturday Night Live was when it was first starting up, and this kind of new idea of something which was kind of a young, hip, satirical show broadcast live, exciting, and that scene transmits it through the lens. I have put down the hijack scene from Furiosa, which I think is the centerpiece of the film, which is a real little filmmaking marvel, and it's a shame that the rest of the movie can't quite live up to the kinetic feeling of that central section. I've put the bomb detonation in Joker Folie à Deux. Insofar as the film was of variable quality, but that scene left me in the audience as disorientated and shocked as the on-screen characters, and it's the moment I remember most clearly from the film. I've also got one other scene, but I'm going to save it because I think it might be on your list as well. Oh, really? So have you got any nominations for Scene of the Year different to mine?
I have 3, and they're all different, actually.
Oh!
Yeah.
Okay.
And again, that stuck with me for one reason or another. I'm going to start with one in the middle because the other 2 are almost opposite ends of a spectrum, I think. So I loved, there was a scene, there are a couple of swimming cat scenes in Flo, but I loved this one scene where Flo, I'll call the cat Flo, was swimming and catching fish. It was very surreal. First of all, cats don't swim like that, and fish don't look like that, and it's just this wonderful cinematic moment because it's something that we can't see in reality. And I love the fact that of the larger sequence, it's capped off by this dog just eating all the fish that she's worked so hard and risked her life to catch. And it's very poignant as well as being very beautiful. The other 2, as I said, they're very opposite ends of similar ideas, but there's this one scene in Origin where there's a Dalit character who's cleaning the public toilets by just submerging himself in filth and taking it up bucket by bucket, which is just brutal to watch and yet so poignant and so metaphoric. But then kind of on the other end of the spectrum, I loved one moment in Furiosa particularly, and that's probably hard for you to believe, but it's when there's this quick flash of an image where I forget the name of it's the ruler of the area there, Watertown or Gastown or whatever it was. I think it was Gastown. he's been sort of sequestered into this cave, and there's a fig tree or a fruit tree growing out of his body. And I loved that scene because, we're living in this sort of just apocalyptic world, and there's no vegetation anywhere, and some people have preserved the seeds from the old days, and they've used them, I don't know if it was Anna Taylor-Joy's character or not, but uses him to nurture the seeds of the future. I thought it was just, again, super poignant, a great image. And it had the most meaning in that one image for that whole film for me. So I think, and I hope I'm getting the right film. It wasn't Fury Road. I think it was Furiosa. So those are my three images. All very like kind of cinematic, but also just I love the poignancy of each image. So what do you think? We don't have anything in common.
We don't have anything in common. I would have put money on you. Yeah. Choosing my fifth scene, so I am surprised it doesn't appear in your list, which is the closing scene from Robot Dreams. The dog and the robot dancing to September as the robot watches out of the window, cutting from one to the other with that kind of split screen effect down the middle of the screen. Yes. Because I not seldom think of that scene. It makes me tap my feet. It kind of explains the whole movie. It's a very sweet moment. So I'm surprised that doesn't appear on your list. Maybe we'll talk about it later. What are we going to choose from those eight shortlisters?
Oh, goodness. Well, I would think that the Robot Dreams scene should be on my list. I can definitely embrace that as the common scene of the year, if you'd like.
I came over to you for Jeffrey Wright, so I'm gonna draw you over the threshold here and force you to nominate Robot Dreams for scene of the year. Then
it's like we're dancing on opposite sides of the Atlantic Ocean and opposite sides of the pond and opposite sides of the computer screens right now.
It's September. Yes, it's almost like art imitating life.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, scene of the year. I feel bad for the other films now, but there can only be one winner.
That's right. It's tough because you think of the thousands of scenes we've watched this year. It's not easy. That's probably the hardest category in some ways, right? You're competing against every other scene.
It's part of the most competitive category, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, you have the next envelope, which is a fun one.
Is this one Weirditude of the Year? Is that what I'm seeing?
Weirditude of the Year.
I'm not sure I'm even properly prepared for this one. Here we go.
So there's been a lot of weird films this year.
There's been a lot of
weirdness on screen.
So are we looking for a film title or for a scene, or what are we looking at? We're looking for a film title.
I think it can be, and I've put a whole bunch of different really weird things on my list.
Okay.
So I think it's free for all.
Okay.
It's a Weirditude award. You can be as weird as you like.
Okay. Well, that allows me to throw some sunlight on some films that I didn't otherwise like. So on my list, I have basically any scene in Joker Folie à Deux, because I'm one of the few people who actually liked that film a little bit, which surprises me more than anyone else. So anything, I could nominate the entire film for that, or basically any scene from that film. I'm going to suggest a couple things. I loved the film Poor Things. I know you were less interested in it than I was, but I really loved it. I loved the acting. I loved the set direction and everything. I loved I thought it was just beautifully done, and liked the story too. So I'm going to put Poor Things up there in its entirety.
Wow, okay.
And then I'm going to put two scenes from two films that I just really did not like, but from Beetlejuice, I love the introduction of the character. Is it Monica Bellucci who plays? Do you remember the name of that character?
I do not. I'm going to guess Gwen, but I'm sure it's not Gwen.
No, okay.
Luckily, I have the IMDb here.
We could call her Gwen. You look it up, but I'll tell the audience she's been boxed up and put in storage in various parts and in various boxes. Dolores. And then Dolores puts herself back together like hand by hand and attaches her limbs and all that. And it's just a great introduction of a character. And it's such a letdown because she's not really in the film very much. It's a terrible role. Yes. But I just love that moment. And similarly, in The Substance, I loved when the younger version of Demi Moore's character crawls out of her kind of, and then has to sew the old body back together to keep it functioning so that it can sustain her. I just love those scenes. So those are two scenes from weird films for sure, but also films that I did not like that I actually appreciated at least a moment in each one of them. Joker, Folie à Deux, and Poor Things. But I'm really curious about your nominations.
Well, there's a lot of medical stuff in my nominations, insofar as this has been a weird year for poorly thought out depictions of medical businesses.
Yeah.
Because there's the substance in its kind of weird medical centre where you pick up your treatment, like you're in a little locker room, and it comes with Apple-style instructions.
Yeah.
And apparently no money changes hands, which just seems like the weirdest thing of the year, that there should be some kind of medical treatment where there's not a lot of money changing hands. And then the same for A Different Man and the weird medical centre he goes to, where there's like a weird operating room, which is they've just sort of built into a corridor with a staircase going up out of it. It's all just kind of a bit weird. So it's not been a good year for realistic depictions of medical procedures. I did have an honorary mention for The Boy and the Heron's Potato People, who's one of those kind of those weird Studio Ghibli little funny round characters who just crop up in the backgrounds of their movies. But at the top of my list of weirditude this year was also the entirety of Joker, Folie à Deux. Simply because I also rather enjoyed it. And I certainly don't think it deserved all the hate that it got.
No, not at all.
But that was the weirdest idea for a $200 million sequel.
Yes.
Especially for a film that was shot in about 3 locations.
Yes.
So maybe it's the accounting for Joker, Folie à Deux, which is the weirdest thing of the year. But yes, Joker, Folie à Deux, overall, some very weird decisions were made in the making of that film. And I'm kind of glad they were, although nobody else was.
Yeah, I respect that. I like it. Yeah, I think that's our choice then. That's the winner.
That's the winner. It's good to see it win something.
I'm so glad that we are the only people giving Folie à Deux an award for something. That's fantastic.
Give it 10 years and it'll all come around to one side.
Well, it's also compared to last year when we panned Oppenheimer and everyone else was saying good stuff. Everyone else is panning this, and we're saying, "Hey, this one was pretty good."
I think the tide is turning on Oppenheimer already.
Yeah. Oh, good.
I think read it between the lines.
Yeah.
I have nothing to back that up, obviously. Instead, I have this envelope. Ooh. So our penultimate award. This is a big one. I get to read out Script of the Year. And again, I've got 5 nominations.
Oh, really?
On mine, although I have a favourite.
Okay, good.
But I'm going to read out my nominations anyway, because I think there's a bunch of well-written movies. Your Script of the Year is a difficult one to judge because we don't read the scripts.
Yeah.
We don't see the scripts, and the scripts are not widely distributed. And usually if you do get a distributed script, then it will either be a transcript of the final film, or it'll be some kind of strange sort of halfway house. So it's rare that we get to see the actual shooting script for any of these films. So the scripts that I think I would be impressed by if they were printed out and came through my door, Anora, written by Sean Baker. I wrote in my notes here, nice to see a film that holds its cards so close to its chest for so long. So that film, didn't announce what it was for about 40 minutes or so, 45 minutes. And it really explores a single, usually marginalized character, and explores her very thoroughly. I think it's, it's a well-written script, and it goes through, a lot of different machinations to reveal many different aspects about the main character. I've nominated Saturday Night, written by Gil Keenan, Jason Reitman, only because I am a sucker for a good ensemble piece.
Okay, yeah.
I enjoyed Prairie Home Companion for much the same reason. It's difficult to get these scripts with many, many characters working, and especially when it's a real-time script as well. They manage to keep all the balls in the air. I think that script works, and overall, I enjoyed the film. I've nominated Zone of Interest, written by Jonathan Glazer, adapted from the book by Martin Amis. At least that's one of the awards where I can say I did read the book.
Yes.
And the main reason I nominate that one is because it does what is, I think, my favourite thing in screenwriting. So the whole film does this, where the contents of the scene and the meanings of the scene are entirely opposed.
Yeah.
So what people are talking about and what's really happening are opposites. I love that technique. Use it whenever I can. That's the mark of good writing, I think. I have also nominated, you'll love this, Alien Romulus, written by Fede Alvarez and Rodo Sagaez. Again, I'll take your advice on how to pronounce his name properly. And if we give him the gong, I will apologize in person. Only because if you are given the gig to write Alien Romulus, you have so many confines and restrictions and requirements for what you've got to do. You are boxed into this tiny, tiny little space. You have to include all of this lore and all of this backstory and all of these rules. And in this film, they were required to, or they chose to revisit all of the previous films. And yet from all those stipulations, they produced, a coherent, interesting, I think, film that knew what it was about. So I think to be able to accomplish that's quite an achievement. Yeah. But I have a favourite, which pips all of those. But I'm going to let you give your nominations, and then because I suspect that my favourite may also appear on your nominations. What have you put on your list?
For script, I've only written down. Oh my God. I've actually only written down one title.
Wow, it better be good. Pressure's on.
Well, I've written down, I should say I've only written down one title that you haven't already spoken about, because I agree with you on Zone of Interest. I think that is a great script for all the reasons you mentioned, and ended up being a great film. By no surprise, if you've got a great script, you've got a good chance of making a great film. The other one,
Hitchcock said that, I believe.
The other one I've written down, I've written down Robot Dreams. I think it's a great script. I think it's a really well-told story, and I can actually see that script on page because all those actions seem very well defined by the animation and all the little written touches. I love the dog writing on his calendar about what date he has to go back and check on the robot on the beach. I just think that's pure cinema, and I think that comes from a really, really well-written script. So those are the only two I'm going to mention, but I'm curious about this one that I should have mentioned.
Well, I once again, you have proven me wrong, because my fifth nom at the top of my... Are you allowed to say that? Nom? Does that mean something different now?
Yeah, nom.
My name. The top of my list is American Fiction.
Oh, yeah.
So adapted by Cord Jefferson.
Yeah.
From a terrific book by Percival Everett, and one of the other books that I read for the pod. The reason I love it so much is because it's what an adaptation should be.
Yeah.
It's not that they are pointing a camera at some actors who are acting out the pages of the book. The material has been reborn in a new medium. So it's clever and witty, and it's a reworking, not just a transcription.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what an adaptation should be, and I think it's a very successful one. But you are exactly right. I can't argue that Robot Dreams is not an excellently made, an excellently written film, because it really is.
Yeah.
It's and there's another one where I've read the book, and I can appreciate all the enrichment that is happening moving from the book to the film.
Yeah. And you said that Zone of Interest, which I think you said you read the book for that too, and you said that similarly, that was not that similar to the script. Was not that similar to the film.
You're right. Yes, Zone of Interest is it really strips the book down to its absolute bare minimum, and gets to the very kernel at the heart of it, and makes a film out of that, which is very clever.
I think in some ways American Fiction is the most clever script. I would definitely say that. But I think in terms of like just real cinema, I think it's hard to write something better than Robot Dreams or Zone of Interest. Those two are so good.
Well, I have an ulterior motive. I'm going to ask that we might give, and this is spoilers, I'm going to ask that we might give the award to Zone of Interest.
Okay.
Because I think Robot Dreams may come in for other plaudits.
Okay. Are
you prepared to accept that as a compromise?
Yes.
Though?
Let's just say that we did or we didn't ring a spoiler bell right there. I don't know what we did. Yes. Zone of Interest.
Zone of Interest is our winner for Script of the Year, which means that you get the envelope that everybody wants to see the inside of.
This is a big one.
You are going to tell us about Film of the Year.
It says Film of the Year right on this envelope. Even I can read that. can't read a script, but I can read film of the year on this envelope. Let me just tear it gently. Okay. And inside I have, I just have 3. Yeah, I have 3 films. I've mentioned each one of these in one way or another, which tells you that, if a film has a good scene or a good script, it's also likely to be in for the bigger awards of film of the year. And
let's cut the chat and give it straight to Beetlejuice then.
Oh, yes. Beetlejuice, best film of all time. We're going to call it best film of 2025, too. That saves us a podcast next year. My 3. This is this will be a particular order, I guess. Flow. Loved Flow. Thought it was so good. So let's call that number 3. Number 2, working backwards, Zone of Interest was incredible. It's another one of these films that maybe was already rewarded as a result of 2024, but we got to it in 2023. We got to it in 2024. Loved it. I think it was a great film. And I was expecting something, but I don't know what I was expecting. I'd heard great things, and it satisfies. And then finally, I liked Robot Dreams so much. I think this was the best film I saw this year. So, Robot Dreams. That's my number 1. What do you have on your card there, or
you know what? I've only got one thing on my card.
Oh,
which is so I have so much space on the card here. I've written a little summary underneath, which is out of all the films that we watched this year, I think there's only one that had me in genuine tears when I watched it.
Yeah,
with just a perfect climax that encapsulated everything that the film was about. And it wasn't even a climax that was sad. It was joyful and also sad at the same time. It's a film which is complex and human and humane and sophisticated, adapted from a book which it confidently transcends.
Yeah.
And this is another reason why it goes straight to the top of the Two Real Cinema Club favourites. It is utterly dialogue free.
Ooh, I'm still wondering, what is this?
The film I'm talking about is, of course, it is Robot Dreams. So written and directed by Pablo Berger, adapted from a book by Sarah Varon. Might be Sarah Varon, might be Sarah Varon. I should have found out.
Yeah, it's okay.
And I've written here underneath, really is the best film of the year a flash animation with no dialogue? Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. Yeah, I agree, 100%. I have no problem with that. Oh, it's pure cinema. It's just brilliant. It's tight. It's well written. It's visual. You're right. It doesn't play to tropes or anything like that. It's so good. The message is so good. It's so inclusive, and the characters are. It's got animals too. We love the animal ones. It has animals.
We love no dialogue and animals. Yeah. We do. It ticks all of our boxes.
Yeah.
I think Robot Dreams is a terrific film. It's going to be. It is a future classic. I think it's a film that people will watch and enjoy in 20 years and 30 years and 40 years.
Absolutely.
It's real achievement. Actually, just terrific.
Yeah.
Well, we have a winner.
We do.
Fantastic.
It's great that we really agree on that last one. That's such a pretty important one too. It's.
It is. Yeah. Yep. It is good to agree. So sometimes we do think the same.
Yes. Well, it's great that we're not arguing between Beetlejuice and the substance at this point, or Twisters and Alien Romulus, or I don't know. We could have had a much worse argument, so that was beautiful.
So to recap, the Two Real Cinema Club Film of the Year Awards. Best film we saw this year that wasn't made this year, we've decided was The Fall, which has got a recent re-release, I think, at cinemas.
Oh, good.
So opportunity to see it on the big screen still. Actor of the Year, we gave the gong to Jeffrey Wright from American Fiction. Scene of the Year, well, we ended up giving that to Robot Dreams, although there have been some great scenes.
We did, yeah.
That's the one that will live with me the longest. Yeah. Weirdest Film of the Year, weirdest moment of the year, the entirety of Joker Follietter, right from the pitch meeting to the final poster. Clunker of the Year, a lot of competition for this one, but Beetlejuice. I don't think there are any bigger clunkers than that. Script of the Year, Zone of Interest, well deserved. Yeah. And Film of the Year, future classic. That's almost a pun. Robot Dreams. Yeah. A future classic about the past, about a past that didn't happen and a future that might happen.
Already a classic in my mind. Yeah.
Yeah. Already a classic.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a really interesting year. Has it been a vintage year? I don't know.
No.
Every even a bad year has got some good films.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we've seen some good films this year, but we've seen some bad ones as well.
Yes. Oof. We've seen both. I'm glad we saw some good ones, and I'm glad we shared them with our audience. I think the fans of the year, audience of the year, it's the Two Reel Cinema Club community.
Two Reel Cinema Club.
Oh my God, you guys are the best. You put up with this. Sometimes we make good choices. Sometimes we make bad choices. Sometimes we make great choices. And you are there enduring these podcasts week in, week out with us. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Happy New Year to you all. This award is for you. Join us next week when we're going to be watching Bob Dylan. Oh, can't wait for that. Very exciting. Well, maybe that will be 2025's film of the year.
Ooh, could be.
Straight out the gate.
Yeah.
Until next time, thanks for joining us as always. We wear these clothes for you. We'll see you next week. Thanks. Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.